What's going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined none other again than by my boy, I am Bouff.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Crafting Comics with Bearded and Bouff.
Yes, we are rocking the new logo today. I'm excited. It's a good day. We are got some great stuff for you. We're going to be drinking some great beers that we consider just to be crushable beers that are just like cruise right through them. And if we're talking about beers that we can cruise right through, I think it's only fitting that we talk about comics.
Of course.
That we can cruise right through.
You can kill it in a night, a weekend. You don't want to put it down because it's that good.
So, with that being said, let's talk comics.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better break necks on. I cut handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me
Well, I think I started last time with you talking about what you were drinking, so I'm going to start first. So,
Please do.
For me today, I am bringing a Rhinegeist. It is a Truth IPA. This is a brewery in Cincinnati, Ohio. So you're going to see a lot of craft Ohio beers because I'm an Ohio boy. So this is just one of those beers that I can have on the summer, on the front porch, and just crush it. It's great. It's flavorful. It's not a heavy beer. So it is something that definitely is what we would consider a crushable craft beer. So I'm going to crack this open, and
Awesome.
why don't you tell us what you're drinking?
Well, first I will tell you how much I support your beverage effort. I remember when Rhinegeist came into Massachusetts, and Truth was the first and only beer they came in with, and I had to grab it. It's so fantastic. It's not a juice bomb IPA. It's got that piney, resinous aspect to it, and it's one of the few IPAs that I enjoy ice cold. So awesome choice there.
It's beautiful.
Frosty glass.
It's not too much. You get just some notes of grapefruit, a little mango, but there are hints of it. It's like you said, it's not a juice blast by any means.
No. I'm actually going to stand by my crushable guideline. If it's crushable, I'm drinking out of the can. So today I got Flyjack by Firestone Walker.
Okay.
I've been on a recent kick, just trying to watch my consumption, balance it calorically for those, delicious decadent pastry stouts that I've been telling you about, those triple IPAs that I do it on the weekend. So this marvelous little beverage, 96 calories, 5 carbs, totally crushable. It's one of the first in the new variety of low-cal, low-carb IPAs that it's hazy. You got that pillowy mouthfeel. It's a little something to chew on. It's still smooth. You got the fruit notes. It's just a dynamite beer.
Sounds it. So Booth you are the one who is, a little smart on your calorie intake. You can tell by I'm just like, just give me the beer and calories. I don't care. But it's all right. So, let's give this a try.
Doesn't matter what you look like. Anyone can read comics.
Yeah. Just usually they look more like me. So we're talking about crushable beers. And when we were talking about this series, you kind of came up with this idea. So why don't you explain this idea a little bit more? I know you introed it a little bit, but where did this kind of originate, this idea of crushable comics as well? Because
it actually
I'm not
started
crushing my comics. I'm taking care of them, right? I'm bagging them, boarding them nicely. So what do you mean by crushable comics?
Well, I started thinking a few weeks ago, like, hey, I'm working from home. It's pretty stressful and I'm working longer hours. I need a beer that I can suck down easily every night. Not in a mass-produced lager, something good. But, is there a comic that I can really get through at those late hours? Something I won't want to put down, but I can read it fast? Those are the stories I'm talking about. Those finite stories. You got end-to-end, a complete tale. You can kill it in 5 issues. Maybe it's a maxi series in 12. Maybe it's a one-shot, but you don't want to put it down because it's that good. It's got that killer creative team. It's got that intelligent, funny writing. For one reason or another, you're not going to want to put that book down unless you got to, make a bathroom break.
Right. And even then, you're just going to take it with you. I don't know. There's some
people have rules about bringing
comics to the
bathroom.
No, unless you're digital, but even that.
Maybe trade paperbacks, but not single issues, not bag and board.
Oh, no. So, so we created a list. I don't know. I didn't look. I don't know if there are lists out there of Crushable series, but we said, you know what? Here are the series that we like, that we've read, and most of them do. They fall into their. I think the most is maybe a 12 issue. Maybe there's some 6. There's some one-offs. There's some 5 issues. There's a one-shot. So we're bringing you some DC. We're bringing you some Marvel. We're bringing you some indie. Some you've heard, probably some you haven't heard of, and hopefully just saying, hey, stuff that you can still hopefully find, because they're going to be tangible for most part to be able to find, that you can then pick it up while you're in quarantine and crush it and let us know what you think. So with that being said, we've talked beer. We've talked about what we're going to talk about. I think it's time that we actually talk about the books. So
let's talk comics.
So what is up first?
Well, a book that you came up with, but I chimed in right away and said, absolutely.
Yes.
It's a book that I read recently, but I don't have a physical copy, which is why it didn't come to mind. I downloaded it from my library digitally.
But
Batman, The White Knight by Sean Gordon Murphy, written and illustrated. The guy kills it. I couldn't put it down.
It is. Crazy is this was issue 1 was a free comic book issue a couple years ago, I believe.
Really?
So when I started collecting again about 2 years ago, went in, back issue, found that free comic book Batman White Knight issue for like they were, I think it was like 50 cents or something, like whatever now, and I picked it up, immediately called my shop. I said, do you have the trade? I need it. And I went and read it and crushed it in a weekend. It is just such a good story. And I mean, I'm guessing a lot of you guys have read Batman White Knight. They just started the new series that just concluded off of it. So, which is good. I liked it, but it doesn't hold up to the candle that White Knight set, that bar.
When you start up here, it's tough to reach that plateau again.
It's hard to hit that plateau again. And again, if I read it, Curse of the White Knight, without any, I would, like, it's great, but when you're up that high, it's tough. So, what drew you to White Knight? Why'd you like that, I guess?
It's that, it's kind of the Elseworlds thing. I'm a sucker for alternate timelines, different universes where something is a hair off. And we got Batman in here. We got Gordon. We got the Joker. That's all pretty normal DC universe, Gotham City. But Batman is not quite the Batman we know. He's harder. He's angrier. He goes a little bit further to dispense justice, and that's where people start to have a problem with him. He's not just that mysterious vigilante. People kind of think he's a bad guy, and I have a little difficulty not agreeing with them. He's, you look at him, he's painted like a villain. Yeah. And then we have the Joker, who's cured of his mental illness. Jack Napier, a nice nod to the Keaton film.
Fantastic.
And all of a sudden, he's the White Knight. He's the hero. And he's brilliantly written. You feel for him. You want him to win, even though he's a homicidal maniac.
Right. Like, the way it's written, it's so believable that you can, because it's not saying that the Joker didn't exist before this and the Batman didn't exist before this and that everyone despised the Joker because, like you said, he's a homicidal maniac and then what Batman did and stood for. But you can kind of vibe with them when they start to flip that switch in the book, and it's so well done, and it's so slight at first, and then it starts to flip, and you go, wait a second, because this isn't your grandma's Adam West Batman, which I grew up on. But, like, this is like you said. So, man, if you haven't read Batman White Knight of this, it's easy to get. You will crush it in a weekend. I mean, that's why we started with this book right off the bat, because we both read it and we both loved it.
Pretty much anything that Sean Gordon Murphy has done is, I'd say, crushable. At the very least, you need to pick it up and take some time to read it.
Yes. So we're going to kind of move along on this because we got a handful of books that we want to talk to you guys about. So up next for me, this is one that I've read. Bouff, I don't think you've actually gotten a chance to pick it up yet. Or checked it out, but this is a book from Ahoy Comics, and it is done by Paul Constant and Alan Robinson, and it is called Planet of the Nerds.
Sounds fantastic.
So it's a I think it was like a 5-issue series. It came out in 2019. Whew, taking it back. But it's this idea, this concept of, if you take Encino Man, which great movie, and you take like Revenge of the Nerds, where you have your very stereotypical nerds and you have your jocks, your bullies who dominate the nerds in those 80s movies that you're just so used to. Well, 3 of these jocks, they get frozen, just like in an Encino Man situation, and they unthaw in the midst of basically today's modern day society, where you have stuff like the MCU, you have stuff like Comic-Con. So where these guys, where they grew up with this culture of nerds are dumb, we're going to beat up nerds and all of this stuff. And it's a very cheesy 1980 jock-esque, like, we're just going to destroy nerds because nerds are dumb. And it places them into this kind of, where we now have seen a shift in society where reading comics is cool. Having YouTube channels where you talk about comics is not, okay, it's still nerdy, but it's not like uncommon to do. Like, so much of that dichotomy has changed and it has shifted. When you have movies like Avengers Endgame that is crushing crushed box offices hands down, and half the MCU did, and Comic-Cons and stuff that are ruling the world.
Everyone loves it now.
It is such a and the art is fun. The art gets me into that kind of just, your jocks, and, he's raging out like you would typically.
Ogre.
Right. Like, it's everything you would hope for when you're talking about one of those. So again, it's a quick read. It's fast. It's fun. And for me, a lot of times, Crushable reads, something that's just got to be something I have fun with. I would never put a Hickman book in as a Crushable read, right? Like,
no,
because it hurts my head. It hurts my head reading his
book. When you play the long ball like Hickman, you need to devote, I don't want to say just even a month, probably take a couple of months to fully digest his new Avengers, his new Fantastic Four, and now whatever he's doing with X-Men. It's going to give you a headache. Stay hydrated, get a bottle of aspirin, and dive in.
So Planet of the Nerds, Ahoy Comics, I guarantee you, I saw it in my store for a while. I never picked it up because they didn't have issue 1, and I'm one of those, like, I got to start with issue 1, so I just waited till it came out on trade, bought it, sight unseen, just knowing about it, read it that night, and loved it. So
you had me at Encino Man and Revenge of the Nerds. I am absolutely adding that to my read pile.
Yeah, get it, by all means. So, so that's one that I've read that you haven't. You've got something on the list that you've read that I haven't. And I want you to tell me what I need to be reading.
Everyone loves cute and cuddly animals, or at least they should, because it's heartwarming, it's endearing, it makes you feel all fluffy on the inside.
We are no pet family in our house.
Maybe not so much in Grant Morrison's We Three. So the new era of military warfare is weaponizing household pets. And they become biomechanical weapons. A bunny, a dog, a cat, an even bigger dog are literally weaponized. Giant cyborg suits, so they're however many times the size of their own body. They're like mobile thinking tanks. So not only do they gain some manner of intelligence, communication verbally, they're weaponized. So you see a bunch of soldiers going up against a bunny, and then they get shredded by a Gatling gun by a cute bunny.
All I can think of is Monty Python with the bunny.
Yes.
It's
funny. It's intentionally written funny, but it's like that Grant Morrison funny. So it's intelligent funny. It's not trying to be wacky slapstick. It's another comment on society and warfare, as Morrison loves to just take a stab at the state of the world in general. The art is super detailed. By Frank Quitely, you know him from All-Star Superman, JLA Earth 2. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely worth a read. It's a 3-issue mini. you can easily get the trade. It's super thin, and you can crush it in probably an hour, maybe under.
I'm here for it. I mean, you sold me right off the bat with Grant Morrison. Then you also sold me with household pets that just run game on soldiers.
Right, they're weaponized. They're your best friends that are now weaponized and will kill you.
That sounds fantastic. So we've done some DC, we've done some indie books. I think we should show some love to Marvel because I get some grief. I don't show enough love to Marvel. And this was a suggestion by me, fans. Okay, like come on.
Absolutely, it was, and I jumped right on board. I agreed. I had done the same thing the bearded bro did.
So, boom, we're talking Runaways. Now I know there's a couple volumes out there, a couple of variations. This is the Brian K. Vaughan story,
where it started.
Where the original Runaways, Brian K. Vaughan wrote this, started the whole series. I think they're on volume 3 now of different runs. But someone recommended this to me, picked it up at my local library. It had been sitting on my read pile since quarantine, and I crushed it, I think, within 2 days in quarantine here. But this idea of these kids who they start to get powers. And I'm not talking like X-Men style powers as much as but unique superpowers, super abilities. And basically right off the bat in the first issue, they find out that their parents are a part of a secret cult society, basically, that are just evil and trying to destroy the world and take over it. And these kids are like, that's not cool.
It's a brilliant idea. And, the fact it took that long, you see, my evil brother, the supervillain, or my daughter is secretly a superhero, but, no one had ever touched on anything like this. And the fact that their parents are only somewhat understanding that their kids have stumbled upon their master plan. A lot of the parents just want to kill them, all of them. And it's fantastic.
And it's good. And I'm not going to give anything away because if you've not read this, it's definitely one to check out. But it does such a good job of still throwing in the mystery and intrigue, because I think this is probably a 12 issue. I guess it's probably our biggest series that you're going to have to get through. And I would say probably issue 2 or 3, you find out, one of the kids isn't fully on board with maybe fighting their parents and is kind of torn in this, do we? And so you're then reading the entire series, which one of these little boogers is cool with their parents doing what they're doing? So it is a fun read. I enjoyed it. I'm actually starting to go through the series on Hulu right now just to kind of see. I always like to do that, read the book and see how it lines up and stuff. So
I haven't started that. Is it worth my time?
So season 1 was great. I think what Runaways in the book does is they don't divulge into the relationship and the dynamics with the parents and the kids as much.
Okay.
In the books, it focuses more on, in Brian K. Vaughan's run here, it basically is really putting the more storyline on the kids, the runaways, the whole time.
Right.
Where this one, it is more of a half and half. You see both sides of the equation. So season 2 started slow so far, but I'm here for it. So we'll see.
Cool.
So we got time. But yeah, so Runaways. Make sure it's the Brian K. Vaughan, the first.
Right. Where it all started.
Yes. So that's good. We're moving along here. I'll crush through these last couple here because we don't want to take you guys' time too much. So up next for me, this is another one that I was telling you about, Bouff, which is just, again, if I'm reading something that's crushable, it's something that is just, it's going to be fun. It's going to be something that I can kind of, I want to say shut my brain off because it makes it sound like you're dumbing down the humor of the comics. But just something that I can just enjoy and crush through. So this is a book from Source Point Press. It is called Floppy Cop. And it is a 5-issue run. And it is where a cop has no spine. And it's not like this mindset of oh, he doesn't have a spine Theoretically, no, he literally doesn't have a spine. Someone stole his spine, so he is a floppy cop. And it just is a really fun sense of humor. It tries to take it to the edge without pushing the edge. It's just really smart, really witty humor. Issue number 1, you see they talk about some of the prisoners who are in jail that Floppy Cop has put away. One of the villains' name is Third Chicken, and he talks about how or Third Bird, and how his other 2 brothers were killed by a stone, and so it's referencing 2 birds, 1 stone.
Awesome.
And there's a mime, classic. You can have a mime, and then there's literally none other than 1994 Charlotte Hornets Muggsy Bogues as a villain in the jail, and that's the only time you see him in the issue. But it's like, you can't have a name like Muggsy Bogues and not be a villain. Like,
fantastic.
And so it just is this humor. It deals with this floppy cop who's your classic hardened cop who's has to get put with this young rookie partner who's trying to change him, and they have to go through and try and learn. And one of the other because Floppy Cop's partner in the first issue is this just kind of dolty, overweight guy who falls into a coma and is dreaming about a soap opera where all the main characters are pretzels. Like, it sounds absurd, but it is. But it walks the line of taking itself seriously and not. But I think it's it's a type of humor that you can appreciate and value, and it just is a fun read. So if you haven't checked out Floppy Cop, again, I think that was 2018, 2019. Easily get it. It was a blast for me.
But we need that sometimes in comics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can invest yourself, like Batman White Knight. You got to think about that, the dynamics, the paradigm shift that you mentioned. But then you read Floppy Cop, and it's okay to turn your brain off for a little bit, and You can still have fun with it. Let it do the thinking for you. It sounds like there's a lot of dad jokes in it, which I think is awesome. So I'm definitely diving into that.
Yeah, it is. It just it's a good read, and you follow it. Check it out. That's all I got to say. So we got 2 more books on our list. I think the last one for you that you have that I don't know.
Absolutely, yes. My most reread indie miniseries, the first indie comic that I ever purchased, new off the rack back in the day in 92, I believe, RoboCop versus Terminator. Yes, it happened. It's not just a gimmicky Freddy versus Jason come to the big screen. It's legit. It's written by Frank Miller, drawn by Walt Simonson. Every single issue has a cardboard like standee that you can tear out of the middle. I never have, but if I find them in the dollar bin, I'm absolutely going to open those up and put those suckers on display. There you go, RoboCop in the first issue. It's just bananas. And, you think RoboCop's a good guy, the Terminators are from the future. How do they link up? Well, apparently Alex Murphy launched Skynet. That's reason enough to build the book around, and then it just goes from there. The rebels are coming back in time. They think they got to stop RoboCop. RoboCop's a good guy from the hardened cities of Detroit trying to keep everything real. Then the Terminators come back, and there's dinosaurs, and there's an army of RoboCops, and fighting an army of Terminators. It's nuts. I have reread it so many times because it never gets old. I love 80s and 90s crazy action cinema, sci-fi. This indulges those to the next level that you could never see on a screen, or rather couldn't in the 90s, but now maybe. It's every movie fanatic's dream of a crossover that no one knows about. It's absolutely worth your time with the all-star creators in it too. RoboCop versus Terminator, early 90s miniseries from Dark Horse, 4 issues, crushable. You can knock it out in a day. It's fantastic.
I mean, and it seems like it was right in the height when they were doing all of those crossovers that you're like, oh, cool. They make somewhat of sense. RoboCop, Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Where now we're hitting crossovers where it's like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman? Like, how? But It is. It's one of those issues I picked up in the dollar bin. So I haven't gotten a chance to actually dig into it because I don't have 2, 3, or 4 yet.
No, you need the whole. You can't
So
tempt yourself because then you'll start to go nuts.
So it's one that I'm excited to hunt for because I feel like I can find it in some back issue bins. That might be one of the hardest books of our list here to find. But man, how can you not crush RoboCop Terminator? Come on.
That's awesome.
That's so good. So last book, we are taking it back to a one-shot.
Curveball too. I knew of this book. Never did I expect you to tell me not only was it crushable, that it was actually good. It sounds like it. There's no way it could.
It is one of those where you're right. I feel like it's when the emails got released from Sony, and they were talking about how they were going to do a Men in Black and 21 Jump Street crossover movie.
Absolutely.
And it's like, how? That sounds like a horrible idea. But somehow the powers that be decided it was a good idea to take DC characters and combine them and do crossovers with Looney Tune characters. And so obviously, you know me, I'm a Batman fan. What up? We're in the Batcave here. And my favorite issue, hands down, and critically, I would say people will say the best issue of that is Batman and Elmer Fudd. And nothing about that should work. Nothing. But they do it. It is written by Tom King. The art's done by Lee
Weeks.
Yes, Lee Weeks. So it is done in this just gritty noir style, but all the characters have been taken realistically. And it's one that I say it's crushable because it's one issue. And it's this idea of Batman and Elmer Fudd are working together to solve a crime. And so you still have Elmer Fudd stutter, but it's not cartoony. And it just is so interesting and well done. And then what it does is it takes place in this kind of world where you have the different Looney Tune characters that are just other humans in this realm and this world that kind of play off each other. So the bartender Sylvester, and so there's just slight nods it might not be it, but one of the bartenders, it's just slight nods to the Looney Tune characters. So it's like, okay, I get that joke, I get this, but it just is one of those where then you reread it a couple times because you want to catch. You're like, I miss this person, I miss this, or the Bugs Bunny of the group, whereas like, ain't I a stinker, trying to pit Batman and Elmer Fudd against each, because what does Bugs Bunny do but try and mess with Elmer Fudd? That's
all right.
It's one of those, like, you want to read it again because you want to see what you're missing out on. So
I have to read that. I'm a huge fan of Lee Weeks. He's got that like really classic kind of early Bronze Age art.
Yep.
He can still, it hasn't changed. He can do the same thing now that he did before. And it's cool to see that classic touch on a modern book, especially something written by Tom King too. So I'm definitely going to try to dig that up.
It's harder to get at your stores, comic book stores, just because it's such a popular issue. Like I think they're going on eBay for $25.
It's in a dollar bin somewhere. It always is in the dollar bin.
It's always in the dollar bin. So it's a harder one to find if you want a physical copy. However, it's on DC apps. You can get it on Comixology if you're just trying to read it, which I recommend. And you're going to have a blast with it, in my opinion. And obviously, by not being able to ever find it, I think it went to at least second print.
Okay.
If you would have told me Batman and Elmer Fudd books are going to go to a second print, I would have said no. Nah, it's not happening.
And maybe people can let us know, what's on their list. I'm looking for new stuff, especially, both of us we're working full time. We have families. Both of us have young children. It's tough to squeeze comics in when you want to, unless, I'm doing my iPad late at night and I fall asleep, reading a couple of pages. What can we crush easily on a weeknight so that we can get our comics fix and get that whole story?
So, with that being said, let us know in the comments. Comment on YouTube here. Let us know. What do you guys think we should be reading? What is a crushable book for you? Have you read what we've read before? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I don't care if you like our things and you want to say, I disagree with you. Let us know. Let's talk. Let's have dialogue, because by golly, when we're talking comics, the world is a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, make sure you guys make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Bearded Comic Bro. I am Bouff. Follow along. Let us know. Comment on our Instagram pages. Shoot us a message. Let us know what's a Crushable series. Let us know what you're reading. Watching this video, YouTube. Click, subscribe, like, comment though. Let us know what you guys think about videos, what we should talk about next. And I hope you guys can find some time to crack open a nice crushable beer and find a series that you can read and nerd out.